Hello everyone, and welcome back to Killer Shrew Fans Killer Toy Reviews. It's been a while since I uploaded a proper review. How long has it been, actually? 2 weeks? 2 weeks? Okay, heck yeah, we gotta get this one out for you. A while ago, I received word that my big order of CollectA Dinosaurs from Minizoo has been delayed given the state of things, but I actually did manage to get a few CollectA figures in domestically, one of which stands before you now. It's this, the Deluxe Styracosaurus, a wonderful, large, and wonderfully large figure that I was remiss in picking up until now. And I'm very excited to take a look at it for you today. Now, I know I've promised other types of videos outside of reviews and art, like top 10s, once/predictions, that sort of thing, and I have been working on some of those, but just to keep the content flowing while I do some background work on those videos, I wanted to get back to the basics and film this review. So with all of that hoopla out of the way, I say it's time we take a look at this CollectA Styracosaurus. So starting off at the head of this model has an absolutely gorgeous level of sculptural detail on the business end of this animal. You can see all of the scales of varying shapes and sizes covering different areas of the face. The iconic horns of Styracosaurus have been sculpted in and given a slight texture as well, which I personally always appreciate. I'm also a big fan of the treatment of the gradation of color from the dark tips to the cream base. I think that looks great. You can see he has been rendered with an open mouth, and the beak has been given the same treatment as the horns. The eyes are mostly black with a little bit of reddish color surrounding the large pupil. I usually don't like CollectA's eyes. They feel a bit too simple and flat for my taste, but here I think it looks very well done, as does everything else on this head. Going down the length of the body, you can see you have got pretty uniform scales covering the majority of the surface area, with larger circular scales kind of breaking up the texture. You've also got lovely bunching up skin folds around the bending limbs, and you can see just above the hips of the animal, you have got the CollectA ceratopsian quills running down the stubby tail. Going back up the opposite side, it's the same story with the texture, only here you don't have the bunching skin as the animal curls over its right shoulder and stretches the skin on the left tight over the body. It's always wonderful to see the sculptors taking into consideration how the flesh would move and compensate with the pose of the animal, and this model shows some great care in that regard. Moving along the underbelly, you can see those lovely pulling tendons in the neck and throat region, all straining to hold up that massive head, as well as a more rectangular style of scaling adorning the surface area down here. You can also see that CollectA logo, as well as the classic dirty CollectA cloaca. Try saying that 3 times fast. Woohoo for that, I guess. As far as the limbs of this Styracosaurus goes, you can see they have got some very nice musculature to them, as well as some great folding up of skin around the joints. The toe claws have been rendered in a grayish color, the weight-bearing digits that is, and yeah, just looking at this model from different angles, you can really get a good sense of the power that was captured with this sculpt. As far as the pose goes, it looks like this Styracosaurus is squaring off either with a rival or predator. You can see it is striding forward and curling itself over its right shoulder, brandishing its horn and perhaps issuing some sort of call. It's certainly an active pose, especially by recent standards on my channel, but it's not so over the top that it could be considered extreme, implausible, or cartoony, so there is a good balance there. It kind of looks like if you were to take the pose of the X Plus Styracosaurus and then married that to the pose of CollectA's previous Styracosaurus, you would get something like this. Oh, CollectA's old Styracosaurus. Those were dark times indeed. As far as the paint scheme goes, it's kind of hit and miss for me. I will say I like the palette once again, and an element that many people tend to bash CollectA for is their war paint coloration when it comes to the face. Personally, I could take it or leave it on most of their models, but I think it looks fantastic on this particular model. It's the perfect level of faded to feel naturalistic, and I think this thing looks very intimidating indeed from the front. Those massive horns paired with the vibrant tan color and rusted red stripes on the face is a real beauty, and this is one of the few areas of this model that feels like there is purpose to the patterning. The torso suffers from the same willy-nilly markings that I personally detest about some of CollectA's figures. The stripes here are just kind of on in a random way that does not feel at all organic or planned. and because of that, it does look a bit like a mess, especially when compared to the face. The banding on the tail is at least nice and feels natural, so there's something I do also like, and the treatment of the quills is very well done, I will say. Overall, I think this paint scheme gets the job done and highlights the details quite nicely. I just hope collectors start to think through some of their patterning decisions down the road. Something else worth noting is the make of the model. The extremities are quite soft and have a good amount of bend to them, so you don't have to worry about them causing any harm, getting bent out of shape, or even breaking if the model was to fall off a shelf, so that's nice. Now, this being part of CollectA's Deluxe line, it is pretty sizable, coming in at 9 inches long or 23 centimeters and stands from the base to the top of its massive horns at right around 5 3/4 inches off the ground, or about 14.5 centimeters tall. So yeah, not the biggest model in my collection, but certainly sizable. While we are talking about size, I do want to note that there is also a great heft to this piece. It feels very sturdy, so a great make, which is fantastic. For size comparison, I'm going to start off by bringing in the Styracosaurus, and although these two don't really size up, I think the aesthetics are actually quite similar, especially in terms of the warmer color palettes on both of the models. Perhaps if you wanted to build a herd, Papo's model could work as a subadult member, whereas CollectA's could be the old bull. Next up for comparison, here it is next to the lovely Safari Ltd Styracosaurus, and yeah, these two are not all similar in style. You can also see that the CollectA offering dwarfs the Safari figure, and I will say it has a much more intimidating and active presence on your shelf. And for a final size comparison, here it is next to the Carnage Resaurus Styracosaurus, and these two are much closer in size, but the flamboyant coloration of the Resaurus and the vast disparity in style certainly don't do the two any favors in terms of compatibility. I mean, it makes sense. One's a model and one's an action figure-esque toy, so that's to be expected. Fun fact, this Carnage Styracosaurus is one of the few dinosaur figures of mine that has managed to stay in my collection since childhood. Well, when I fell out of the dinosaur interest, it actually wound up going to my younger cousin who was just getting into the dinosaur phase. She's still there, but when I asked if I could have this gem back, she let me take it. And so now, an old childhood friend stands before you, which is, kind of fun to think about. And finally, for size comparison, we have another CollectA Ceratopsian, the Eniasaurus. This is easily the smallest CollectA figure I own. I don't own many, but the point stands that it is tiny. But with this Styracosaurus being part of the Deluxe line, it should go without saying that these two are not at all in scale. But hopefully if you have either or, it will give you an idea of the size you can expect from the opposite model. So there you have it, guys and gals. That is going to do it for our look at the CollectA Deluxe Styracosaurus. This figure is pretty sweet. It's sizable, has a good amount of detail, and has some good shelf presence. Really the only drawback in my eyes is the haphazard paint on the midsection. If there was a better approach taken for that area, I think this model would be near perfect. As is, I think it's safe to say that I dig this model. I don't own very many CollectA figures, so it's hard to recommend many of them, but this is certainly one worth adding to your Ceratopsian herd, and it's one that honestly makes me want to get more figures from the company. If only my mini zoo order could get here! Now, all that being said, I actually did read that CollectA has taken a bit of a hit with the current global situation. Their profits are a bit down, so, if you were looking to buy any CollectA figures, now's the time. Give them some extra support, show your love, show that you care about what they do, and that you want to see them keep doing it. I'm actually thinking I might go ahead and order another CollectA figure. We'll see. Yeah, that's just something I wanted to pass along. A lot of people are taking a hit during this time, so we just gotta do what we can to support ourselves and each other. But as always, I want to know what you guys think of this model. Do you own it yet? Are you planning on picking it up? What is your favorite Styracosaurus in model form? And what dinosaurs do you still have from your childhood? Drop a comment down below. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope you enjoyed the review, and as always, I hope to see you again for the next video. Take care, and bye-bye.